Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys. It's a new month. It's Friday, June 1st. We've got a brand new month to talk about. It's our last month of Ice Guys shows until next hockey season. It's a very sad month when you think about it in those terms, but we've got a few shows left as we continue through the Stanley Cup finals and the pursuit to hoist the greatest trophy in sports, Lord Stanley's Cup. I don't want to hear any of this nonsense about that dopey NBA trophy, the World Series trophy, that stupid little rinky-dink thing they give out in the World Cup soccer, which you could stick it in your pocket. That thing is so damn small. This is the trophy everybody wants, the Stanley Cup right here. Joined by Alex B. Smith and Andrew McGinnis as we are ready to look ahead to a Game 3 in the Stanley Cup Finals. Vegas and Washington, seen shifting now to the nation's capital, Capital One Arena in Washington. Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern puck drop. This is an NBC Sports Network game, so make sure you're aware of that. NBCSN has Game 2 and 3, and then the rest of the series will move back to the main NBC network, Game 4, through to a possible Game 7. Are on the main network. Saturday night, NBCSN in the States, of course, CBC Rogers in Canada. We've got Washington minus 125 to minus 130. Home favorite in Game 3, total 5.5, pretty much across the board. I'm going to keep this analysis short because I'm like a poker player that played my hand on the previous show. I already said what I was going to be doing if Washington won Game 2 and tied the series up one game apiece, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. We're going to go to the Vegas Golden Knights, who has a team that has consistently been able to count upon them off a loss, off a bad performance, a goalie in Marc-Andre Fleury that I've been consistently able to count on and rely on off a loss. 14-2 in his last 16 starts off a loss, 16-4 for the season is Marc-Andre Fleury in games following a defeat. Those are track records that I have no interest, none, zero, in stepping in front of here. And I think you'll get Golden Knights making their adjustments. We know how good Gerard Gallant has been in these spots, maybe making some subtle lineup tweaks, subtle lineup adjustments to put his team in a better position to, make adjustments to what they saw from the Capitals in Game 2. There's been no coach better at doing that than Gerard Gallant on a game-to-game basis here. And let's be honest, what's Washington's home record here in the playoffs? Most of their damage that they've done has been on the road. It hasn't been any great shakes for the Capitals on home ice. 4-5 in 9 home playoff games, one game below 500 here on home ice. So you got a Vegas team that's had no qualms about winning in tough road environments. Just ask the Winnipeg Jets about that. And a game where I think you get their best effort off a tough loss. And let's be honest, that last game, Vegas didn't necessarily play poorly. You got to separate playing poorly and losing and then just playing not quite good enough and losing. I think it was more playing just not quite good enough. They didn't play poorly, Vegas, in Game 2. And Braden Holtby was outstanding in the third period when the Golden Knights were really pouring it on with chances and shots. And, of course, the incredible save with that crazy wicked bounce off the stanchion to rob Alex Tuch with over a minute to go with an incredible save with the goal stick, reaching out and just basically snaring one right away at what looked like a tying goal for Alex Tuch in the latter stages of the third period. So you tip your hat to Braden Holtby, but Vegas had their chances. I think you get them making their adjustments, them going to Washington feeling, hey, we're 1-1. We've always responded positively off some adversity here in this postseason, and I'm going to count on them maybe to do that one more time. So I'll be on Vegas here at plus 110 is the best price out there right now with the Golden Knights side. Lean to the over as well, but I'm definitely higher on the side than I am the total here for game number 3. Let's go to Alex B. Smith, Vegas and Washington, game 3, series tied 1-1. Strap yourself in. It looks like it's going to be a long one. It's going to be a competitive one. What do you like here on Saturday night?
Yeah, you made a good point about Vegas not necessarily playing poorly in game 2, but just not doing quite enough. And you can really make the same case for either team in both these games. This could easily be a 2-0 Capital series or a 2-0 Vegas series right now. So these teams have done well as well as they can this time of year. But we need that extra effort from somebody. We need, like I said, those secondary players have to step up. The goaltending's been awesome. Like I said, that's not the case at all. You can't point a finger at Marc-Andre Fleury or Braden Holtby in these last 2 games. These guys have kept their teams in the game. The only thing you have to really look at is really the defense. And I mentioned it in the last show about how easily Washington was able to get cross ice passes off in Vegas' zone. We saw one of the first goals for Washington sure enough be a pass that went from center to center in Vegas' zone, and end up going in the back of the net behind Fleury. So that's something that Washington has to keep doing until Vegas stops it. They have to keep good puck movement going, clean passes in the opposing zone. That's the only way you're going to beat Fleury. You're not going to get a whole lot of traffic through. Fleury finds a way to keep his crease pretty clean. The defenders know how to kind of, I guess, to use a basketball term, box guys out a bit. But you got to have the passing going back and forth. With Vegas, they pretty much just have to play their games as well. They got to keep the speed going up and down, north and south. They have to find ways to get traffic in front of Holt because traffic really does kind of seem to be the issue. If you want to beat Braden Holtby as of late, he said getting those cross-ice passes aren't going to be a thing. You're going to see him make more paddle saves like he did that great save late in game two. So teams just have to find a way to play their game. Obviously, this changing scenes to DC, which is going to be an incredibly rowdy crowd. I expect it to be just as loud as it was for Game One in Vegas. It's the first Stanley Cup final game in that city in 20 years. And like I said, I thought that DC would be going home down 0-2, and there'd be a little bit more desperation on their end. But the fact that they're now tied at one gives them a little bit more positive momentum. They don't have to feel down. It's like, okay, now we can play our style. We can take the lead the way we want to, rather than having to be on our heels like we've been the last three series. But with that being said, in the last three series, they have lost the first game at home in each of these last three series during the playoffs this year. So that's something to keep note of. Vegas hasn't traveled to the East Coast since March 12th. That was a game they won, a 3-2 win against Philadelphia that actually wrapped up a 4-1 road trip out east. So traveling isn't really the biggest thing for them, but it will be interesting to see how they respond early in this game because they're completely out of their time zone, something they haven't really been, even with the Winnipeg series. They're just, in the central zone. So I'm going to be looking at possibly the first period under 1.5. I can see where this would be a much tighter game than we've seen in the first two first periods. We've seen the over cover in both of those last games. So I'm going to be looking at the first period under. And I lean with Vegas. I was going to go with Washington this game had they been down 0-2, but I'm leaning with Vegas here. Great team off of a loss. We're getting a solid plus price. So I think Vegas will end up winning this game, getting the 2-1 lead. But I think we see a little bit lower scoring, so a slight lean to the under, but definitely more so with the first period under.
Yeah, that's a great point you brought up about the travel situation. It has been a long time since Vegas has played an Eastern time zone game. Very long time. But they did good the last time they were in the East Coast. They did well. Remember that road trip? Remember when was it? October, November? Vegas was feasting on the home ice record early in the season. People saying, "Oh, geez, let's see now when this team goes on the road, plays in that in the Canadian cities, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Boston." They make all that Northeast U.S. travel as well. They'll probably fall flat on their face, a lot of people were saying. That did not happen. They played very good on that road trip, Vegas. They still came out of there with, I think, 500 or close to that road record, which for that kind of travel is very good. This is not a team that I have any qualms about on the road anymore. That was fixed a long time ago and certainly was put to bed, and you slam the door shut on that little stigma that they can't win on the road when the way they played against the Winnipeg Jets, one of the best home ice environments going in the NHL. The way Vegas was able to play there in Winnipeg was absolutely outstanding, absolutely phenomenal. Even San Jose in the second round, that's still a pretty decent environment at times. And Vegas had no problem closing out a series there on the road, no problem closing out the Winnipeg series on the road. One potential fly in the ointment with my Vegas opinion here is that for game three is that, Vegas won game two, on the road against Winnipeg, 1-1. They took that momentum home with them to game three, and they won that game. Yeah, that's a scenario that could play out here for Washington. I'm firmly aware of that. They grab big-time momentum with that win, 1-1. They carry it over. They're flying out of the gate tomorrow night, and maybe they jump on Vegas. But I'm willing to say that doesn't happen because I haven't seen evidence of a team that has been able to get a fast start against the Golden Knights when the Golden Knights lost the last game. Which is the case here. So that is why I like Vegas. I'm going to trust them with my bankroll right now to bounce back because they've shown me time and time and time again that they can do this and that they have done this. So we'll see if they can respond off a defeat one more time, something that they have been just money in the bank at doing for months now. Not going way back into the regular season as well. Andrew McGinnis, what Vegas and Washington, your betting takes, your betting opinions here for Game 3 on Saturday.
Yeah, not too much for me today, but pretty much I'm looking at this game. I mentioned that in game one, I thought it was a missed opportunity for this Capitals team. They could have had that game as well. Like Alex mentioned, both games could have gone either way. I think the Capitals did exactly what they had to do, and I think that in their advantage, they need to keep the score low scoring. But I think this game three, heading back to Washington D.C., is going to be a lot more aggressive, a lot more chippy, and I think that benefits in the Las Vegas factor. So I would agree with you guys that my lean would definitely be on Vegas. But like Alex said, I think the travel factor and the way these two teams have already had 2 games now heading into game one, I'm kind of thinking about this game 3 over in the second period, 1.5 minus 150. I think that's going to be kind of the best play as far as totals for a period go. Like Alex mentioned, I do agree with him. There could be a chance of a low scoring first period, depending on how these two teams come out and the adjustments that they've both made, depending on both what they think about the game one and game two. But as far as it goes right now, my play is going to be on second period over 1.5. I think that's the period that will open things up, and that's going to be a very important period for both teams. As we can tell, the third period is obviously the main period that decides things, but that save by Holtby and stuff like that. Both these two teams don't really play too well when they're in desperation mode. So the second period is kind of going to be the period that wins the team the game. So overall, I think that what needed to happen last game happened for that Capitals team. Ovechkin, I mean, we mentioned on the show, I mean, he was only a plus 110 Ovechkin anytime goal scorer. Was that even worth taking? Obviously it was, I guess, because he scored, but he wasn't paying too much. And you head into this game right now, I think that ultimately, guys, we just need to see more of the supporting cast for Vegas. I mean, we haven't really mentioned this too much because we've always talked about everything that Vegas has done and how they have 4 lines that can roll. And I've mentioned that at least quite a bit. But you look at Eric Holla, even David Perron, Cody Eakin, those guys, they have to be there as well. But I think it's time for Marchessault to have a big game. It's time for Carlson to have a big game. Time for us to see some big plays from Riley Smith, even because we saw James Neal get on the scoreboard. But when sometimes, even though I'm always preaching secondary scoring, you need to have that consistency from your top line as well. I mean, Ryan Reeves mentioned it, and the fourth liners mentioned it, that it's good to have some slack taken off that first line, and it's good to get some pressure off them because they are shutting down the opposing team's top line most of the time as well. But when it comes down to it, Stanley Cup Finals, I think it's time for Jonathan Marchessault to step up, get on the board for his team. So, I do think it could be a slower start to the game, guys, but I think progressively the game will pick up in Washington and the score will get up there. So minus 155 over 1.5, kind of a steep price, but that second period, I think the floodgates will open up.
All right, over second period is something that Andrew McGinnis is looking at here in game number 3 here. I'll tell you what, going back to Alex, who mentioned the under 1.5 in the first period, bet 365 for even bigger bang for your buck. No scoring before 9 minutes and 30 seconds of the first period, plus 100. So there we go. Another way that we can maybe attack that. If it's a slow start, you get no goals in the first 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Time of that first score prop. That's always an interesting one. I always like certain situations. I find that's something worth looking at. But yeah, if you like the under first period, that's another way to go about it for even a better price. No score before 9:30 in that first period, plus 100. So just another thing you can look at there if you believe it's going to be a little bit of a tentative, cautious start. Yeah, from a Vegas perspective, yeah, you'd like to see more from John Masserole here in this series. You'd like to see him do a little bit more, do a little bit better, maybe than he was in game 2. Had some opportunities, but not quite to the extent. He didn't really put that blue thumbprint down on the game that usually we have seen from him here in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I think you're going to get a little bit of a better performance from him here on the road. Really, Kuznetsov, we haven't even mentioned this, and we should. I mean, we don't know if Evgeny Kuznetsov is going to suit up here yet. For the Washington Capitals in game number 3, left forearm injury on that hit in game number 2 that he had to leave the ice because of that. And now he's in question for playing on Saturday night. Now, obviously, the couple of days off helps a little bit, but the way he was holding that thing, it looked like it was some serious pain, more than enough not to come back in game 2. So I'm not going to put my Dr. James Andrews hat on, or whoever, famous sports doctors are out there right now. But I'd probably say he's at risk to not play tomorrow night. I mean, it didn't look like that. It didn't look like something that may be just a one game. You leave the game and you're back the very next game. I mean, it reminded me of Nick Backstrom's injury early in the playoffs. Nick Backstrom, people thought, oh, that doesn't look too severe. He should be back the next game. Next thing you know, he's out several games in a row earlier in these playoffs. Nicholas Backstrom for the Washington Capitals. So to me, that doesn't look like the kind of injury that tells me he might be back right away for that very next game. But definitely that's a injury that you're going to want to monitor and be aware of moving forward. In terms of 2 days rest, because again, Wednesday they played. Now they're going to be playing Saturday, so that fits into 2 days rest. Washington 7-7 on 2 days of rest. Vegas 10-8. on 2 days of rest. So yeah, slight edge to Vegas, but nothing really significant in terms of these two teams' records off 2 days of rest. So that's something to look at there. Totals wise, Vegas actually 11-5 to the over on 2 days of rest from a total standpoint. Washington 7-7, 7 overs, 7 unders when playing on 2 days rest this season. So not much variance there for Washington. Vegas though with a little bit of an over bias, over trend on 2 days of rest. So just some little trends there to throw out there for this game that are pertinent to Saturday when these teams meet for Game 3. Really, my final thoughts, and we'll get final thoughts before we wrap up the show from everybody here, is that Vegas has been one of those teams that is like just reliable. You can rely on your neighbors maybe to look after your house when you go away on a vacation. If you're good neighbors, if you're friends with them, if you've known them a long time, you can rely on that. Well, one of the things I've been able to rely on is the Vegas Golden Knights putting their best foot forward after a loss, and I'm going to just go back to that one more time here and see if they can just do what has been consistent with them all season long, particularly here in these playoffs, particularly with their goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury, down the stretch, who, as I mentioned, in his last 16 starts, off a loss, 14-2. That's a track record worthy of betting support, in my opinion, for Game 3 on Saturday night. Alex B. Smith, final thoughts from you on Game 3.
Well, I mentioned about Vegas with the whole travel, first time back in the East Coast in months, but let's look at Washington too. The last 3 games they've played have been on the road, so effectively they haven't been in their home rink in a few weeks. And obviously that's more of a trend that we like to look at during the regular season, but that also is, something that of adjustment as far as you think about just general adjustments, not just the crowd, but sound, how pucks are bouncing off the boards, the ice surface. It's not going to be nearly as warm in the DC area like it's been in Vegas, so the ice surface shouldn't play a factor and be real messy like we've seen in later periods, especially in Game 2. We saw one of Washington's goals was basically a puck that bounced off of a mountain of ice and went past Fleury. So those are things that we have to look at, and those are adjustments that the players will be making early, which is why I believe that we'll see that first period go under 1.5. I think we could see maybe one goal or possibly even a scoreless goal. Like I said, that scoreless prop, 9.5 minutes in the first period. That's something I'll more likely be looking to play. I know there's a few shops that offer that either 9.5 or 10 minutes into a period. So look for that, but definitely if you can't find that under 1.5, I think it's worthy of a play. And I think Vegas will be able to take care of business like we've seen them do time and time again off of a loss. And you're getting a plus price, grab it now because more than likely the plus 110s and 115s, those are going to be gone by tomorrow, and we might be seeing it more closer to even money. So Vegas and the under first period are my 2 plays for Game 3.
All right, there you go, Alex, recapping his Game 3 opinions and recommendations. And one last thing about the travel situation. Both of these teams, Washington and Vegas, left on Thursday for DC. They left yesterday. So Washington left Vegas yesterday. So did the Golden Knights, and that is even more important from a Golden Knights standpoint because they're traveling Thursday. It's the right call. It's the right decision. Good job by the organization and the management, everybody that decided let's leave Thursday. Let's not wait till Friday. Let's leave Thursday. Let's get there. Let's get acclimatized, familiarize our surroundings. Let's get used to the time zone change, adjust our body clocks. Now you've got tremendous amount of time to get yourself settled into your new time zone. Think about it. You're going to arrive there late Thursday afternoon. The game's not till Saturday night. Remember, not a Saturday afternoon game. Saturday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, the same time you've been playing, throughout Game 1 and 2. What were those start times? 5 p.m. Pacific, even in Vegas, the same start time. So this is a minimal, fatigue spot from a travel situation. This is a minimal, we're really thrown out of whack in terms of the start time kind of spot. You've got 2 days to simmer down and get familiar and comfortable being in Washington. A 5 p.m. Pacific start, which is exactly the same time as Game 1 and 2. This should be a minimal impact. Put it this way, if Vegas loses Game 3 on Saturday night, it ain't going to be, the time zone, the body clock's out of whack, no, bullshit. They didn't play it good, and Washington played better. That's going to be the reason they lose this game. It's going to have nothing to do with the travel situation. It's in fact, for Vegas, this travel spot going to Washington couldn't have really worked out any better for them. 2 days to get ready, to get settled down in Washington, arriving on Thursday for a Saturday night game at 5 p.m. Pacific, the exact same start time you've been used to playing at here in these playoffs, particularly Game 1 and 2 of the finals. So this is a negligible negative travel situation, in my opinion, for the Vegas Golden Knights. Andrew, let's get to you with final thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think whatsoever it's much of a big deal at all, the travel situation. Like you said, it's the same start time, theoretically, the same start time that they would be playing in Vegas in general. But look, I'm not going to discredit guys. I'm not going to sit here. I don't want anyone to think I'm discrediting this Washington Capitals team, for Alex Ovechkin's effort, Burakovsky's effort. I mean, seeing Lars Eller get on the stat sheet a couple times. But all I'm saying is, first of all, this Washington Capitals team has been the better team on the road throughout this playoffs. And, like you guys mentioned, Vegas coming off a loss, the effort that they had only putting up 2 goals last game. They got robbed quite a few times by Holtby, especially with that paddle save. I just think their effort's going to be there a little bit more. And I just think that their surrounding cast and their whole 4 lines, again, like I've been saying, are going to be a little bit too much. Their speed's going to be too much for this Capitals team tonight. Again, my main play is going to be on that second period over, simply because, like Alex said, I think maybe this first period, after we've had 2 games played already, there could be some questioning, could be some adjustments defensively and offensively made until they go into the locker room for the first period, come back in the second period, and then I think the floodgates open up. So my official play will be in the over in the second period.
All right, Andrew, liking most of all over 1.5 in that second period of game number 3, the Capitals and the Golden Knights. Yeah, I mean, definitely 4-5. We see it. The Washington home playoff record, nothing to write home about. This is one of those spots where, yeah, we don't. Some of us, and Andrew mentioned not believing in the Washington Capitals. This is a one-game spot kind of play for me on Vegas. I mean, if Vegas wins this game, doesn't mean Washington's finished. I mean, it's only 2-1. It's got the feel of maybe this is a back and forth zigzag theory series. I'm not saying it's going to be that way, but so far through 2 games, it's looking like the potential is there that it could be one of those back and forth series. So this is just a one game spot on a team that has just consistently gotten the job done and taken care of business after a loss. And that's nothing here. This is not me saying Vegas is winning the series for sure. This is not me saying they're just going to start rolling right to the Stanley Cup now. It's just a one-game spot play for me here with the Golden Knights in game number 3, and we'll see if they can take the 2-1 series lead. And again, their track record off a loss has been nothing short of sensational, nothing short of remarkable for the better part of the last few months. But it's been a very good series. I'm telling you, it's been a fantastic first couple of games. I'll give the NBA credit. That was a great game 1 of their finals last night, Golden State and Cleveland. But I think that could be that one game that they had in their back pocket for Cleveland to maybe win one. And then have that one great, fantastic first game. Will the rest of that NBA Finals series be as compelling as Game 1 last night? I'm not so sure. This series, I think it absolutely will be compelling, start to finish. We're going to have more great games, great goaltending, great plays being made by two teams that have a bunch of skill throughout their lineup. So looking forward to continuing to watch these Stanley Cup Finals unfold. And, of course, the place to be to break it down from a betting perspective each and every day throughout the finals is right here at sportsbookreview.com with the NHL Ice Guys. So we will be back with you on Monday, our next show. Just be aware of that. Monday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific. That is a game day, by the way. Like, we're breaking down Game 3 right now, which isn't until tomorrow on Saturday night. Monday, when we're with you at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific, that'll be game day. Monday night will be Game 4 of this Vegas-Washington series. So that'll be a game day, which means we'll have props to break down in terms of, goaltenders, goal scoring props. We'll get into some of that prior to game 4 once again. So make sure you join us Monday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m. Pacific for our game 4 breakdown here on the NHL Ice Guys of the Stanley Cup Finals. For Alex B. Smith and Andrew McGinnis, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Have a great weekend. Enjoy game 3 on Saturday night, and we'll see you again on Monday.